Sakshi. Good afternoon, everyone. And it's great to kick off the summit today with a conversation that deep dives into the impact of AI on the manufacturing sector, a sector that is critical to driving the GDP of the economy, the country, and will be at the forefront of seeing how some of these changes are implemented. So let me start off with you and understand, Satish, in terms of how the manufacturing sector is looking at implementing AI and whether or not this will be a benefit in terms of cost, in terms of speed. Where are you seeing the best implementation of AI?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, BT, for this opportunity, and also, maybe an opportunity to talk about the most relevant topic of today. I also was fortunate enough to write a global thought leadership on AI in manufacturing, covering many CEOs in India as well as the globe. So we'll try to bring in some kind of perspective. It's very relevant, for the simple reason that today, if you look at the clock speed of change, every day there is a new challenge. What was relevant yesterday is not relevant today. Something else changes. Second, degrees of freedom. Earlier it was maybe only commodity price changes or, logistics. Today there is geopolitics, there's logistics, there's commodity changes, all attacking at the same time. So what is most important with CEOs is agility in decision making. Now, given these multiple factors are coming into play, how should I respond fast is an important part of it. Second is, when multiple variables are actually attacking, imagining, doing scenario analysis with one or two factors is still okay. But with multiple factors, it becomes very difficult to do it human. That's where AI actually comes into a big hand in looking at it. While, of course, AI brings in a lot of power, if you really look at where manufacturers have actually started doing, is they've started identifying some specific areas and say, of course, manufacturing is a big area. In manufacturing companies, people also do it in supply chain, procurement, and other areas. I've seen work happening a lot across all the three areas. In fact, cost, quality, delivery, and also even in innovation. Maybe I'll talk more about it during as a part of the panel, maybe just since this is a starting question.
Great. Cost, quality, innovation,
and delivery.
Speed, yes,
yeah,
all of
safety.
These factors. Deepak, let me bring you in on this as well and understand the economic case as well for AI investments and how manufacturers are really weighing it up.
First of all, thank you for this opportunity to be here and then talk about the most relevant topic, what you rightly said. Yes, the investments on AI is something, we'll talk about numbers, that's fine. Like most of the organization, if you look at somewhere I read 99% of the organizations are actually thinking what I should do AI. They have ideas on where they want to implement. They have ideas on how it is going to help. But it gives a clear impression that everyone is thinking. Now, the most important factor is, like we spoke about cost, quality, and the efficiency, right? All three things are equally important. But on top of it, most of the organizations are actually keeping some realistic budget, not just to have AI for the sake of having it, but look at how do I improve my efficiency? See, cost, automatically it will reduce, but by reducing the efficiency, what they're looking at is how do I look at more products in a year, more releases in a year. I mean, if I go back a few 10 years down the line, every 4 years once we used to see a new variant of a car. We had every single possibility of right from designer to supply chain, everybody collaborating. Now the point comes is every 4 years a car is not acceptable. Not acceptable because cars have become like an iPhone or a phone or something where everybody wants to change every alternate year. So in that area, in that era, it's equally important to see how they optimize, and nobody can escape from leveraging the technology today. So we may, in next questions, I'll also speak about the importance and how we need to prepare for that. That's equally important. Today, if you look at budgets are there, organizations are considering very seriously on how they want to implement AI or how they want to take advantage of AI. But the real question lies on how do I prepare for that?
Okay,
so that is something.
Yeah, so take us through that. Let's hear out your thoughts.
So now, sometimes my example may seems like very basic and simple. If you go back 10, 15 years down the line, when the technology started to kind of take up beyond what it used to be regular engineering applications. I mean, we come from an organization where Dassault Systemes actually provides organization to build their products virtually first before actually making it physical, right? That means the CAD, the CAM, the manufacturing, everything. So now the whole world started to look at, like, what kind of applications I need to implement to make it more productive or to be efficient, and also be kind of like, IT or a technology company. So then it started with all multiple applications. And 10 years down the line, we started to see most of the organizations started to realize, I mean, I can quote few examples. Some of the CIOs said, we have 1,800 applications in our organization. Like, how I need to kind of like, build on that. How do I need to kind of simplify? How do I need? Then the whole thought process of platform came into picture. Now you have a platform where all apps sits, and then you reduced all unwanted applications and had the right applications to support your business, whether it is manufacturing, design, supplier collaboration. Now, what I'm trying to say is, AI should not repeat that. Like, I mean, today, one should actually look at the long-term perspective on how do I build connecting the entire value chain, not like, bits and pieces where I have 20 different AI applications running, and 5 years down the line, somebody wants to come and integrate that, like, to make it happen. Okay. So this is where I say structured data is important.
So it's really jumping 100 times ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
I want to add one more point to what, in fact, when we did a kind of thought leadership, one framework which we, proposed is, if you really look at the power of AI is actually in connecting data. Connecting data within an organization, cross-functional, as he actually talked about across the supply chain. It's also about connecting data with ecosystems, which makes you much more precise and sharper to go about looking at it. That's where the entire thing, I completely agree with Deepak. To get the real power of AI, it's important to connect and extend the entire supply chain, not only within your organization, but beyond.
Got it. So come back to you for more details on that, but let me bring Saju in as well. In terms of how, let's say, your organization is looking at it, both in terms of operational efficiency as well as ROI.
Yeah, hello. Once again, good afternoon, and thank you for making us part of this very relevant discussion. So, ABB is known as a technology company. So when something new comes up, we jump on it, or we are the trendsetters in it. So same thing happened when it came for AI also. So I will focus more on the physical AI part of it because I'm from an operations background, so I would like to talk more about it. So we see it as an enabler for manufacturing. For example, there is a concept of iceberg of ignorance, which says that 92% of the information doesn't reach the top management, or top management doesn't know it. The question is, does they really need that 92%? So what we are looking at is the AI system converting those information into an insight and providing it to us. For example, simple thing, any business, the main purpose is to make profit. So where are the leakages happening? So rather than people measuring it, the system measures it. For example, if I'm a business manager, in the morning I get, okay, on a negative side, like this many losses happened in the factory yesterday, I can act on it immediately, rather than I waiting for somebody to come and tell me. And that is what we see as the major point. And from our perspective, this ROI conundrum, we keep it a little bit aside, because from a ABB perspective, we normally look at the value than the cost, what value it is adding. So sometimes we don't invest 100 rupees because it doesn't add any value, but we will invest 1 million if it adds value. So rather than looking at the cost, the impact which is bringing to the organization. So actually this is very relevant. So when we talk about technology, the problem with ROI is we are talking about numbers, what is tangible. Whenever we talk about technology, many times it's not tangible. For example, let me take the example of cybersecurity. How would you put a number on cybersecurity? It's quite difficult. So in this case also, so it need not be that everything is tangible. So we look at the intangible part of it and then implement it. So we spoke about the quality, cost and timely delivery. So we in ABB have the concept of, when I talk about operation, safe, smart, sustainable. So when I am doing something using an AI system, which we will discuss in the next minutes, so how can we put a value on safety? Because it's very important, but to put a monetary value on a person's life is impossible, right? So we do it that way, the value.
That's
how we
super
look at it.
interesting. Super interesting. And we will talk about that further. Satish, I want to bring you in on that, but also on the fact that a lot of Indian companies are still, like obviously ABB is far more evolved right now in terms of how it's rolling this out and implementing it. But a lot of Indian companies are still a little apprehensive of moving from the pilot project stage to the implementation stage.
Yeah.
What is the largest apprehension there?
Yeah. So I would classify the impediments in 3 broad buckets. It also came out as a part of the research. One is data. When I say data, data today is very heterogeneous. Different functions maintain different level of granularity of data. Say maybe manufacturing function maintains data at a granular, at an hourly level, maybe at a minute by minute level, depending on the kind of missions you look at it. Maybe procurement, the data is maintained maybe once in a week or once in a particular way it's not completely maintained. Or if you really look at some aspects of planning and some aspects of logistics, it's not to that granularity. So connecting data is becoming a big challenge, number one. So data is heterogeneous. Second, he talked about applications, which is still a challenge even today. Okay, we have most of the data points still reside in maybe in the SAP or ERP, one part of it, but there are a lot of bespoke applications which are actually there. They don't talk to each other. We have definitely moved the needle on that to come out to, how do you go about integrating, but still as a challenge. And when we talk about maybe big companies have done it, maybe emerging companies have done it, but maybe MSMEs, they are still struggling with the kind of data. Even level of digitization of data, if you really look at it, we still need to move forward much ahead to go about doing that. So data is one big challenge, why things are not happening. Second most important is skill and apprehension of people, okay, which is the change side of it.
Which I think is the
most
important,
important part of it, which means that there is a bit of an insecurity in minds of people, which is rightly so relevant in terms of what will happen to my job. So good amount of communication is required from the leadership, from the communication for reskilling. Second, how AI is going to change their job, not take away the job, but make them more efficient, make them more focusing on more value-added jobs, is a communication which is very, very clearly important. How will the process change post-implementation of AI is a big area where the organizations need to spend a lot of time in terms of coaching to remove this fear. And leadership should actually also be coached to look at how should they handle the change management challenge. While we talk about a lot of tangibility in terms of how benefits will come in, this needs to be addressed as a big, big area, which is one of the key impediments why things are not moving forward. Maybe the top management want things to be done, but the middle management and the operating management still wants to know what will happen. There are so many queries need to be addressed. That's the second. Third impediment is securities. Now, securities and trust on AI. Now, can I trust the output which actually, which is going to give in? Can I make the decisions based on it? And what should be the frameworks which I should, have in place before I go about accelerating on AI? These are the 3. And different organizations and different levels of maturity on the 3, which determines their progress.
All right. So, Deepak, Dassault has been a pioneer in, virtual twin experiences. Where do you, however, see the next level of unlock? When we're talking about challenges and from your very experienced perspective, where do you see the next stage of growth?
So I think it's a very good transition. Like Satish spoke about the challenges, right? I mean, the virtual twin, he brought it at the right time now. So many of us, way back when we talk about anything about digital twin or virtual twin or 3D, we are known to have a representation of a product, right? If I'm making a component or an aircraft or a full aircraft or a car, I want to have it in 3D. Let me see how does it look like, and then I used to go. So that was the context of a simple representation of a 3D data for doing your activities. And it was successful in engineering, and some components used to go to supply chain, or some components used to go to shop floor to see how it works. Now the topic, what you said, virtual twin. Virtual twin, I have some global information as well, but looking at India context, if you look at, this is like many people are talking in different angle. Like for example, virtual twin potential itself is close to around 2 billion by 25-26, and it can go up to 12 billion by 2020-30. $12 billion is what they say. So what does it mean? What does it mean? Is it something which something is up for to sell, or something up for to grab? No, the whole context is exactly what Satish said. So today, we at Dassault Systemes are positioning virtual twin not for a specific product alone. It is for an end object for sure, but create a virtual twin of your organization. When I say organization, you take example of an organization with 2,000 employees. So 2,000 employees may have around 400 roles. When I say employees, the team who is responsible for your engineering, production, supply chain, marketing, HR, finance. But there are maybe role maybe around 25%. When I said role is you may have 5 HR, you may have 100 engineers. So those are all roles. So there are 500 roles. Now, can we build a virtual twin of organization where you are creating a platform where all these roles are given access to a single source of truth, which is nothing but your end product. So now, as in a manufacturing, you may have a very nice automation line built, but just imagine your civil engineer is actually constructing where he is trying to draw power from solar energy. Is it linked? Yes, it can be linked, but it can be in silos. But how my virtual twin of organization can talk about the engineering data connected to manufacturing data connected to the infra what you have, and the same data given to end customers, which we call it as end user experience, where I can see the car in my cell phone and see whether I want to buy or not, where it is directly linked to the actual engineering data. That's the reason the potential of virtual twin is actually increasing.
Actually quite fascinating hearing this.
Once you have that, then bring the AI element to that. When I say these 500 roles, what we are creating is, can we have a virtual companion for every single role? That means the skill topic. These companies are not new. There are startups, I know that they are leveraging, but there are companies which is existing from 100 years. You can't give away whatever they have learned. So can this virtual companion crawl across your own IP and suggest something new for the better efficiency? This is exactly what virtual twin is talking about. And this, when you build the virtual twin of your organization, you bring AI, which can actually help you to put more efficient way of working. Then automatically you're setting the data right, putting a structured data, making everybody look at a single data point, and you don't have to spend too much on integration later on once you have that.
Okay, that's really fascinating. And I love the different examples all of you have given as well on how AI can work for an organization. Saju touched upon the whole safety, cybersecurity angle of it, compliance. I would love to hear from both of you as well in terms of how that can be addressed when it comes to implementing and rolling out AI initiatives, and how big a concern that is. Is it something that needs to be addressed as we continue to evolve, or are there already systems in place?
So, see, this is a very interesting topic. Again, I'll go back maybe 5 years prior to this. Most of the summit and events used to happen on cloud, right? So where the cloud is heading to, what is important, is there a safety? And everybody said, and if I go and talk to CIOs, they said, oh no, cloud its way, I want on-premise everything. And most of the events, everything is happening on about cloud 5 years back. Now today, everybody is talking AI, and unknowingly, the cloud has become mandatory. Because you can't do AI without cloud. Now, when the organization or the technology is moving in that direction, if you still have the fear that, is it safe, then you're not there. So biggest of the biggest organizations, I can quote because Mahindra and Mahindra decided to go completely on cloud with us in terms of their entire value chain. So this shows the confidence that there is enough in terms of security, taken care in terms of how it can be managed, because you have to improve. You have to improve. If you want to take advantage of AI, you have to be on cloud. If you have to be on cloud, you need to be really worried about your data, your IP. You're not playing around with I don't want to name, but there are certain AI tools where you say that I want to prepare my presentation, you put something and it will give you a nice content. But it's all general public information. And organizations can't play with that. They can't say that, okay, XYZ public information, can you help me? How do I build a car? No, it's your own IP is going to tell you how to build a new variant, right? So that means security is important, but at least I am confident that there are enough measures taken. And we have been seeing a lot from not only private players, but some of the government organizations across the globe saying that, yes, we have to take extra measure, we have to take extra precaution, but let's jump onto that. The moment when you're in cloud, then automatically is taken care. I have to give the positive part of it.
Got it. So
I have a slightly adding to it.
Yes.
I have, like any other, like the way AI is developing, equally cyber fraudsters also developing ways in which they will go about attacking. If you really look at two kinds of frauds which are actually happening, is one, of course, they are leveraging AI for creating more force to penetrate and create a cyber fraud. So which necessarily means organizations also need to respond with that agility to have a very strong digital resilience to go about responding. That's very, very important. So when you ask about investment for AI, one is actually applying AI for developing models and others. Equally important is AI security. Investment has to go into it. That's one. Second type of cyber frauds which are actually happening is they getting into the code of your AI itself and making your AI go rogue. To ensure that, because many of the decisions today are actually taken based on AI. So if I influence the logic or if I change certain things, so the decisions can actually end up creating a loss. So which necessarily means, of course, while definitely there's a lot of confidence and security, but equally important is they're also developing, so we need to bring in a very strong defense, digital defense, to make this actually happen.
Okay. Are you seeing the government's incentives also helping company adoption in AI? In the sense, are you seeing a move to kind of address some of the fears that MSMEs may have?
Yeah, so if you really look at it, yes, I mean, there's a lot has been done on AI, creating from an infrastructure perspective. The AI mission is actually attempting to pursue onto it. But if you ask me, the core challenge of MSME is actually addressed with respect to data, digital infrastructure per se. I think to accelerate adoption of AI, I think either there is a focused financial support is actually required. Hand-holding is required for MSME. Like, maybe I would want to slightly touch upon one concept. If you really look at when manufacturing excellence came into India in the early, 90s, people formed a cluster-based approach for MSMEs. There was a cluster of 10 companies join hands together to solve problems and adopt new practices. Maybe lighthouses should be created in the countries to coach these MSMEs on a cluster basis. Some of those things need to be brought in as infrastructure.
Okay. Saju, let me bring you in as well. On terms of, you mentioned, the production floor when it comes to skilling, reskilling, upskilling, just familiarizing people with some of the new initiatives or new technology that's being rolled out. How easy or difficult is that for you as an organization?
Yeah, so see, we had been manufacturing in India for more than 75 years now. So that means that we have seen the second industrial revolution, the third and fourth anyway. We have a very good implementation of Industry 4.0 and 5.0 in our factory. So before I answer that, I take a cue from him also, that there is a fear that AI will take away the jobs. So I will take you back some 40 years. When computers came to India in the 80s, there were similar talks happening. I was in school at that point of time, but I heard similar talks. But what has happened is, something very funny happened. I know a lot of people who were protesting against computerization, that computerization will take away jobs. And interestingly, many of their children are owning IT companies now. So the point is,
amazing.
Similar thing will happen in AI also. It is going to be there. It is going to stay. So we need to adapt. If you don't adapt, we become irrelevant. And one more point is, as we are talking to be the manufacturing hub of the world, so I always use this book's name by Marshall Goldsmith, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. So what brought India till here won't take India there. So if we want to be there, we need to adapt technology and we need to do the in thing. What is happening now? What is the current technology? And this is very, very important. So when it comes to, as I mentioned, when it comes to the manufacturing footprint from our experience, so 50 years ago, it was man-man collaboration. So when Industry 3.0 came, we talk about automation. Then we talk about man-machine collaboration. So in our systems, we have man-man collaboration, man-machine, and machine-machine also. And when you talk about upskilling, so when we take something for automation or AI, how we select is, we select the dull, dirty, and the dangerous. So for example, somebody is tightening a screw. For example, in one of my products, there are 11 screws to be tightened and we manufacture 800 of them. So one guy is tightening 8,000 screws in a day. So remove it, automate it. The another one, we are applying 3.5 kilovolt on a product. We are using PPEs for protection, but why somebody should be near the danger? So when we talk about safety hierarchy also, we talk about removing or isolating the danger. So that is what a robot does. It tests. And the screwdrivers which we use are at 50 volts, they are DC screwdrivers, so they don't harm any people. So that is how we decide on it. And when it comes to reskilling and upskilling, so what happens now is the collaboration between man and machine, the collaborative robots. So even though we are removing these kind of, the dull jobs. So if I take what happened in our factory 8 years ago and now, the person who was tightening a screwdriver can do a basic foolproofing or a troubleshooting of a robot. If there is an accident, not an accident, but if it gets stuck or there is a program, he knows how to bring it back to normal. So that is the kind of skilling which has happened in our factories. So even though we are taking out the dull jobs, so why do we want to do the dull jobs? So let people learn more about it. So that is how we look at it. So with that, the people who are operators with the ITI background, they can manage. They can do basic corrections in the system. And the systems are so good now. When we talk about Industry 4.0, we talk about prescriptive maintenance. So when there is a breakdown which is happening in our robotic system, you go there, it tells you if there is a network problem, check this. So a basic level trained guy can do it. So that is what we saw from our experience happening. Yeah.
Okay, so closing comments and all of you, I think you've just probably touched the surface or, just sparked a conversation and set the tone for the summit in terms of ways to implement, how it can actually lead to a lot of value creation and also overcoming certain apprehensions or challenges in the minds of companies that are still looking to adapt. You said you've attended some global forums, Satish, with a lot of input from global CEOs. Any closing comments you'd like to leave us with?
See, normally in any kind of a technology adoption, I've seen developed countries are ahead and India, maybe a bit lower. But fortunately, here, when we did a survey, we found everybody across the globe is still figuring out how to go about doing. So we are at par with, globe in terms of, in fact, in some places, we are a bit ahead. Okay, this is something which we actually saw. But where maybe some of the global companies actually scored is maybe availability of quality data is something where maybe the infrastructure was a bit more better there, because of which the prediction is maybe AI adoption can be a bit more faster there than here, okay, is the kind of one. Maybe my final closing comments is adoption of AI, as Saju said, is no more a choice. For you to respond with agility and intelligence, AI adoption is a must. What we need to look at per se is maybe every organization, instead of actually just adopting AI for the sake of adopting AI, should first look at what is the art of the possible with AI, for the business. Which are all the critical areas where AI can be bringing in extra value, create significant competitive advantage, identify that, then create a roadmap for implementation on a 2x2 matrix in terms of a true consultant. So a 2x2 matrix to say where value can actually come in, what is the level of data availability is there, and prioritize and run it in waves. But the transition is happening in Indian companies as I speak to you, and it's just a matter of years, where we see a complete transformation.
I think I'll just take from there, when we talk about AI and we heard about many things in terms of how organizations are implementing, whether we call it as a Silicon Valley or what I say, everything is happening in India. So AI, I think India can really be the front runner now because it's new. And more importantly, as he rightly said, it's not an option now. It's a choice, but one should come out of the fear that it's going to impact. It's only add value. I mean, if you look at when we started putting across our solutions which automated 3D data, where many thought no engineer, they'll lose their job. The 10 people who are actually creating a product, now there are 3,000 people who are creating that using the technology. So that means this will only help us to grow faster and help us to kind of make it really adopt quicker. So now in the whole context, what I feel is there is a great future ahead, and we should not think in silos when it comes to AI. I know today everybody is in a hurry to implement something and then get something best out of it, so that it should not lead to 5 years down the line, oh, I have to put up a huge budget of consolidation. So now this is the time. That's where we are saying we need to make virtual first. Virtual first was only associated to product. Now you see that your entire virtual twin of your process, your data, and your consumption. So put everything and then bring AI element to this, so that automatically you will start taking the benefit out of it.
Okay. Saju.
Yeah, so about AI implementation, how we learned it. So there are two major things. One, the adoption of AI should be a top-down approach. It should not be an engineer going and telling the CEO that we need AI. So it should be the other one. We spoke about the ROI part of it, the value and cost part of it. Second, why people fail in technology adoption, what we have seen, we have also made the same mistake that we want to do so many things. So we take the most complex one, then try to implement, we fail miserably. So we lose the interest, the management loses the interest, and then it is on the back burner. So what we normally have to do is, okay, I take this example of the Japanese concept, the martial art concept of shuhari, so in which we say that initially you follow the rule, then you make the rule, and then you, then you break the rule and then you make the rule. Okay, please do not follow this in traffic. We have to only follow it, don't make or break it. So we have to follow first, we have to learn it first. Then we need to challenge why things are done this way, why can't we this way, do it this way, and then make your own systems. That is how it has to happen. For example, we are all engineers, most of us are engineers here, we know the Pareto principle, so the top 20 contributing to 80% of the problems. Select that top 20, out of that the most critical one and the simple one. Learn AI, make a very small case, then you learn. Then the implementation becomes very easy. So I will take a analogy from what I read in Business Today some days back. I learned about it for the first time. There's a 7-3-2 rule in the investments. It says that first 1 year you take to reach 1 crore, then in the next 3 years you make another 1 crore, and in the next 2 you make another 1 crore. So there's a compounding effect. So when it comes to technology adoption also, the same thing is applicable, and that is what we have seen. So it takes time. So please don't rush. So for the first crore, you need 1 year. Then the third and 2 comes in 1 year. Sorry, the second and third comes in 1 year. So same thing will happen in technology adoption. So that's what I want to share.
All right, wonderful. Thank you all so much. You all spoke so well and shared some fabulous insights and examples with us. Could I have a big round of applause for our panelists?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's have a warm round of applause for all our panelists for this wonderful start off to the session. Let me also invite on stage Mr. Siddharth Basu Chatterjee, publisher, Business Today magazine, to please come up on stage and present a token of appreciation to all our guests.